So, hello everybody, and welcome to today's episode of H1Z1 Dead Feature Rant, episode 21. Here we're going to be talking about art and weapons. Now you're going to see going along at the blog or at the ticker at the bottom there. We've got Jimmy Whisenhunt's dev blog on weapons and the dev spotlight for Bill Yeatts, where he talks about art and what's going to kind of be going on that side. So, two awesome streamers here. In fact, these two guests here often stream together spooky games and horror games and survival games and that sort of stuff. And you can definitely imagine it's going to go on in H1Z1 too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, good times will be had. So
Yeah.
I guess we will start on screen left here with Uni. Why don't you say hello and introduce yourself here?
Hello, everybody. I am SuperFancyUnicorn here on Twitch. I've been streaming for about a year. I'm a variety streamer, I guess. So I do a variety of stuff, because that's what that means. A lot of FPSs, MMOs, and then for October I will be doing a whole bunch of scary games, some with the lovely Tess, so should be a lot of fun.
Very cool. And then Tess, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about, and also the that awesome thing that you were in a month or two ago. Should definitely mention that too, because it's totally cool.
I'm not sure which awesome thing you mean. There were a couple of awesome things a month or two ago. Hi everyone.
Well, why don't you go through all of them then? I know you're like a celebrity here now. It's awesome.
Well, I'm not sure if you mean. So I'm not sure if you mean the stream that I got to do with H1Z1 from PAX, the one I got to do from SOE Live, or if you're talking about Time Magazine.
Time Magazine.
I'm not sure. Oh, okay. I'm a streamer on Twitch. I stream a lot of scary games, and I wear a heart rate monitor all the time. Like, I stream either a scary game usually, or an FPS like Borderlands 2 or Call of Duty Zombies a lot, things like that. Anything that is really intense or really scary basically is my shtick. And I wear a heart rate monitor so that you guys can tell just exactly how scared or super terrified I am. Or, super excited. If it's like Borderlands 2, you guys can tell when I'm super hyped or I'm super focused or anything like that. My heart rate rises. For some reason, when someone asks me to tell a joke, that makes my heart rate rise. I don't know. But I was in Time Magazine a couple months ago now, I think, or a month and a half, something like that. I was in Time Magazine. My channel was featured, which was really, 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 really cool. It was also in the New York Times and Media Post. I'm also on a really awesome streaming group called the O Team. We all stream. We're all super, super, super interactive. All kinds of different games. Most of us are variety streamers with sort of our own little bit of a different take on things. But in general, we're just very, very interactive with chat. That's our kind of main thing. All kinds of different games at all times of the day. So definitely check those guys out too. So yeah.
Very cool. All right then. So let's get into the conversations here. So, of course, you two got a chance to see the video that Bill Yeatts did, the developer spotlight, I believe it's called officially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was some pretty cool stuff in that. So I'm just going to kind of go over the details, and then we'll kind of stop on each point and talk about the specifics of it. So Bill Yeatts, he's the art director for H1Z1. He's been at SOE for 13 years, he was saying. So, that's a lot of projects. I would wager he was probably there either on PlanetSide 1 or otherwise potentially one of the other. They had a lot of projects that came and went over the years, so it might have been on a lot of those. But I don't know. I'd have to ask him, and I actually kind of want to at some point to figure out what games he's been on in the past. But that's a long time to be at SOE. I mean, Rosie Rappaport's one of the other people that comes to mind for like art veterans at SOE. That and Tremel Ray Isaac, but he came and went and came back, so it's a little bit of a different story. So just on that, like his duration at SOE, what does that mean anything to either of you in any way, or is it just like, yep, he's just another artist?
I think he kind of gets the whole SOE overarching brand, I guess, because the studio definitely has its own sort of presence, and like kind of theme they go for. They're super community oriented, so I'm happy that someone who kind of gets that is working on it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And just
Yeah,
that much experience in general for a title that's going to be this popular, I think, is another good thing.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that how open and sort of involved with the community all of the developers from SOE have been has been absolutely amazing. And so definitely I agree with Uni that someone that understands the value of that, including and it doesn't matter sort of what part of the game you're working on, whether it be art or specific animations or coding things or whatever aspect of the game, the overarching game design. We want to know about all of it as streamers and as gamers. We want to know about every single little thing you guys are doing, especially when we're also anxiously awaiting the game. It's like little tidbits of
Yes.
new information that we're like, yes, gives. It's awesome. So it's cool that they get that. It's very cool that they get that.
We got some awesome folks joining us here. Among the many people I want to point out, Cycles McHurts, Mr. Tom Shank himself. He is awesome.
Okay.
I got a chance to hang out with him at the NVIDIA Game 24 event a couple of weeks ago, and I also got to see H1Z1 in beautiful 4K resolution. It's lovely. The UI is just so tiny, though, and it was actually, I think Steve George said it was the first time he saw it in 4K resolution, and I'm like, what? I thought like Smedley's office had like 9 4K monitors strung together on like 5 supercomputers that had like its own individual heatsink going into an office that just vents it out. Like that's what I was expecting, but no, like if that's the first time you've seen it, that it looks great. I mean, it looks great already because coming from the PS2 Forge Light engine, but yeah, G-Sync as well. Indeed,
Cool.
Looked fantastic. And that was on the SOE Live packs and all of the basically the build that existed up to that point. So it looked good on a build that still didn't have even more complete systems, and I'm really excited to see what the next build is going to be like. In fact, I was wondering, Cycles, is the next, I guess, public build actually kind of solid and ready for demos? Did it make it down to Brazil, or was that the PAX demo that made it down there? And while we're waiting for an answer for that, I'm going to move on to the first question, which was, when is deep water going to be added into the terrain, basically? When is there going to be more than just the little shallow knee-high water? And that's a valid question. The answer was basically, water volumes and swimming are needed. So something that actually acts as water, that isn't just a surface that can be penetrated, but something that's actually got the properties and physics of water, as well as the ability to interact with it in a meaningful way. If you can't swim, then we're going to be left with the PlanetSide 1 underwater walk of shame, which nobody wants that. So that's it's definitely important to have those systems in place. So I think he said not by the start of early access, but during early access they'll go in, and that totally makes sense. So thoughts on deep water? Tess, I'm going to throw it over to you first.
I definitely see it as something that will be very, very cool addition to the game once it's out, or once early access has had some sort of time to develop. But I don't think it's going to be a sort of huge. I don't think it should be, in a sense, a huge priority for them to come out with it ready in early access. I think there's so many other aspects to the game that are going to be sort of the core gameplay and the core functionality of everything that are so much more important that we really want to see as soon as possible. Obviously, we all just want to get our hands on it and play it. So I definitely think that'll be something really, really neat once they've sort of had some time to develop the core of the game to add. It'll add more, more interesting aspects to the game. But I don't think it's needed right now.
I agree.
Yeah. I can see water being interesting tactically as well, because, like, can zombies swim?
It's a good question.
So
Can you hide from zombies?
Yeah, theoretically, maybe you could escape that way. But I also know that like fluids in general are pretty intense on processing and programming and stuff. So I'm totally okay with waiting on that.
I was talking to someone that speaks from a position of experience that bog bodies are the most disgusting thing they've ever seen. Basically, if a corpse is in water for long enough and it's kind of like breaking down and decomposing, the bones break down like really, really quickly on. So you end up with this squishy, floppy squid of a human. So I'm wondering if that's what like one of the types of zombies is going to be when we start going in the water. There's these freaky, squishy zombies swimming after you and stuff, and they even get on the land, and they're one of the ones that kind of crawls around because they've said they want you to have to look on, like even eye level, lower eye level, and upper eye level pretty much all the time, making constant checks. So that yeah, so freaky bog bodies. I'm just gonna anything you want to say on that before I move on?
All I could
Freaky
think of
bog
was,
bodies sound
I stepped in a zombie puddle.
Gross.
I'd like
That's
to
all I
make
could think
zombie
of.
puddles. Just like whack them over the head with something and then they splatter around. That would be awesome. Sounds like a good time. Basically, any depth like that that's added to the game, I think, will be really, really good. I think just right now, people are so focused on the core and when is it going to be out, that they sort of miss or don't worry about the things that are going to be coming after it actually does come out. But that stuff is equally as exciting. So it'll be cool when it happens.
Yeah. So we got confirmation here. The is that Carl? Yes, Carl would have to be the name if it's going to be a squishy zombie. You've done it, Cycles. I like that. The confirmation that the build we're going to see in the stream, I believe on Thursday at 3:30, is going to be the new build. And as he said, well, if it's not stable, it's going to be a short stream. But either way, I'm excited for the build. He's compiling it right now. I'm really, really excited to see what new features have come in since the last time. Bears not just kind of sticking their snouts in things and standing there until you aggro them and then they kill you, but more meaningful interactions and stuff out of bears, because bears are basically the raid bosses of H1Z1. So I'm really excited to see them, really up and fully functional, charging at things at 35 kph or mph. Well, first one then the other. They're fast. Bears are fast.
Are they? Like, the one I saw when I got to play was stuck in a building, I think, so I just kind of noped around it and went on my way, but...
Yeah, no. When a bear charging at full speed, they can go, I think they've been clocked going over 40 miles per hour.
Wow.
Whoa.
I don't know
That's
how
crazy.
I don't know how agile they are. I don't think you can try to juke and jive and dodge them or anything. I'm sure they'll just keep coming after you and just kind of bear tackle you when they get
No
close
bear
enough.
parkour?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my god, bear parkour. That would be hilarious. We do have deer twerking. We have that already.
That's true.
Well, we also have the bear dance, and I'm wondering. I've been wondering if that one's gonna go in, because I've really wanted to see that rigged up and the consequences which make it occur. Because it's awesome. It's a bear dance. Yeah, bears will still pwn. If you see one, you're dead. Yep, break line of sight, and if it's still coming for you, you're screwed. All right. So the second thing that's asked is the kind of features in the future that Bill would want to work on, and his answer is that he's really looking forward to this kind of mega terrain system, and that seems pretty cool to me. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, if there's going to be some amount of procedural generation of terrain based on kind of stamps and segments they've made, or if he's talking more about the scaling and level of detailing and everything to be able to represent a realistic world and long distances and such, and not have massive load times or any load times, and not have computers dying or anything. So I think that's really cool. I actually want to know more about that mega terrain system that he was talking about, because it's only touched on for a moment and it sounds very, very, very juicy. So thoughts, either of you?
So I don't have any idea how much of that is procedurally generated and how much of it is done by the artists themselves. It sounds like a lot of it right now is done by them themselves, which is really, really interesting. I wonder how they can combine the two things, things that are procedurally generated and things that are just drawn by the artists. Because I know that their map is going to be a decent size, and that eventually they may make the map bigger, or what have you. It sort of will depend on how the game evolves once it's live. So I'm interested in what that exactly means, how that exactly works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big map will be important too, because it sounds like they're wanting people to kind of dig in and be in it for the long haul. So you're gonna want like space to set up your own little city or fortress or whatever that's far enough away from other people that you're not like, I can see them from here. That would kind of break the big world feeling a little bit, I think. So
Yeah, true.
it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
I mean, some of the Wile E. Coyote traps I want to set up are going to take a very large amount of surface area to actually set up properly. So I'm definitely excited. There's going to be long expanses of road for the, what would it be, like a rocket strapped to my back that I then get a rocket boost and I'm on skates or whatever. And try
Need
to
some
catch
tunnel paint?
Yeah. various shenanigans.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
So Cycle McHurts was saying they actually have layers with procedural elements and hand-placed elements. That's so cool.
that is cool.
That's
I
so
like
cool.
that
So
so
you can
much.
combine the two. Interesting. Really, really interesting.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. It's nice
could-
because it makes it easier to build a whole complete world that way, but it has these like very specific elements that are individual to each location. That's really neat. It's really
Hmm.
Yeah, no, that is pretty awesome. We use Dev Magic. It's super effective indeed. Good one. I didn't even see that one earlier. Yeah, no, that's totally cool. I'm really excited because there could also be things like natural disasters affecting one or both layers in different ways, or potentially just specifically targeting some of the more procedural aspects of it, and
For sure.
resource availability and that sort of stuff could get affected in an area. That's actually really awesome because weather can also be something that's kind of procedural, potentially randomized, and it could be something where server to server you could find yourself like some server it's just where you happen to end up going is really dry, and some other server you just randomly end up getting rained on all the time, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just how the weather decides to play out in that area. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to see some of that sort of stuff, and just weather being able to change things.
Yeah. I could see that making a huge difference. Like you spend all this time on your city or even just your own little area, and then a tornado blows through, or fire or raining zombies. Can that be a thing?
Well, if they get picked up in a twister, I guess they'll get deposited somewhere. I don't know if they'll be
That's
alive
true.
when they get there, but they might.
Just have someone airdrop zombies on you. I mean, that's entirely possible, as you guys saw.
That's true.
No, Tess, have them drop the zombies on you, apparently, because
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my god, it was hilarious. It was so hilarious. It was like classic Tess jump scare. But I didn't expect that to happen when I was streaming live from PAX with Adam. Like, I was just like, wait, oh my god! It was insane because literally, I'm like, so can we see airdrops? Thinking it's going to be like a car or some gear or, like nothing crazy. And out comes a giant container with a whole horde of zombies in it. What? Oh my god, it was insane.
That's pretty
It was
awesome.
awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Very, very classic for me.
Well, that means we'll probably see ones that are even more devious, like they're rigged with explosives. And yeah, there's some
my
nice
God.
equipment in them, but you need to, spend the time and know which wire to cut and have proper wire cutters available. Or maybe you have to cut two wires that you need two different people to do it simultaneously.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I could see that sort of shenanigans, but you pull it off. Hey, there's two sweet motorcycles waiting for you, and they've got those little shotguns mounted on the front and everything. Like, that'd be totally awesome. That'd
Like a Flash and
yeah.
Planet Side.
Yeah, basically. Or yeah, ATVs.
The
Maybe
thing
that would
on-
work a little better.
Mm-hmm.
God. The thing that I find most exciting about the drops is the PvP potential, because as soon as somebody orders a drop and you see it, like even if it has nothing to do with you and you didn't know it was coming, if you see it coming, you're going to go check it out. It's just going to be the natural
Absolutely.
tendency of anyone. So there's going to be a whole ton of people there curious to see what happens. And it would be cool to see, like, if it is a zombie drop, for example, will the other people around help? Or will they help the zombies to kill you, because they want to like get more kills or something? Or will they, will it be an opportunity for people to do co-op, to work together? Because that could be a cool opportunity to save someone, that wasn't expecting a horde of zombies, and you can make a new friend. It could be cool.
Was it all zombies in that box, I wonder, or were there
Yep.
some items behind them?
Nope.
No,
Zombies.
just all zombies? Okay.
Things that
That's
wanted to eat my
amazing.
face. It was awesome.
Zombies.
I love how your first thought is to help, Tess, and I'm thinking, man, it'd be great to sit back and point and laugh. Or keep them off while they're getting attacked by zombies.
That's what I would expect more.
Oh. If I play H1Z1, I've got to have a soundboard rigged up to like a gamepad or something, so I can just do all sorts of like the Nelson Mutz is exactly what I think of in that situation.
That's gotta happen.
Uni, I would expect for you to find a way to trap them horribly. Like maybe you see the airdrop coming, and you build like some sort of really, really fast like giant hole for everybody to fall into that you can wall them up in and like watch them suffocate as you did in The Sims. This girl found ways to kill people in The Sims that were so inventive. Yeah.
You mass murder people one time in The Sims, and suddenly you're a mass murderer.
Hey, I've been doing that since the original Sims. I used to kill the sad clown in the original Sims. Like, that's how hardcore it was. I'd put him in a... Okay, I'm not going to get into the details. Anyway, I'll tell you later. So now that we've kind of segued a little bit, let's get back on track. The third question... It was pretty much asking, is how set is the art? Is stuff going to change a lot? Is it going to change a little bit? Is it not going to change at all? And the answer was, yeah, some stuff is going to change, some stuff might change, but nothing is set in stone. Anything can get changed at any time. Especially because it's early access, I would say most definitely true. This is still in the most volatile state. If they really decide that, like, okay, it is exactly 3 months since society fell and, things have gone under in this area, and then basing everything on a scale relative to what things would be looking like after 3 months of nobody being around, plus or minus, wildlife and zombies and all that sort of stuff going on. So, yeah, we've already seen such a big change. The first build they showed off, there were rusty cars and intersections everywhere because it was 15 years after, and then they changed that real quickly. So all of that stuff is completely gone. Some stuff is still kind of grimy, but some stuff is a little bit fresher and newer looking. So I guess, what are your thoughts on the art changing, and is it something that, aside from just making something look cleaner, do you think that old classic parts of the art from the game should stay the way they are, or potentially get changed and updated over the course of it? Any thoughts on the art changes here? Uni.
Sorry, my dog has thoughts. I think it'll really help just like setting the tone of the world, like, because I feel like it would make a huge difference feeling like, okay, this is all new, what's going on here? Zombocalypse just happened and everybody's confused, versus, okay, it's been 15 years. I think like day-to-day life would change pretty drastically in just overall culture. So I don't want to say you'd get used to it per se, but I don't know. I think it would definitely change the feel of the game, versus like the beginning, everyone's probably still around. Years later, like only the real badasses are still alive and kicking. So for sure, I think it would change the tone.
Definitely.
I mean, in terms of the art changing, I think that it will really depend on what they settle on in terms of the lore, because I know it's changed progressively as they've been developing the game. So I think that no matter what, the art will probably fit the lore, and that just makes sense. I think from what we've seen of the game so far, it looks really good, and I highly doubt that they could do a bad job. Whatever sort of art they choose to do, whatever sort of genre they choose to go with, or whatever style they choose to go with, I think that it will be fitting to the lore, because I think in most of the other games, whatever lore is the lore for that game, their artwork really suits the game, and for SOE games in general. So I think it will fit the game well, because they've shown them their ability to do that, and I think whatever changes they make will probably be for the best. I have maybe a little bit too much trust in the developers, but I mean, they've done right for us so far, so I can't complain. I really can't complain at all. So I have a lot of faith in them. I think that they will do a good job.
I don't see why you wouldn't have full trust in the team. I mean, this is a lot of veterans that came over from PlanetSide 2, which I know some people are thinking, well, man, it doesn't have like 10 million people playing it concurrently. But at the same time, it's done a lot of things that a lot of games still have never been able to do. The only people competing with them is PlanetSide 1 for MMO FPS, especially with the asymmetrical balance. So, SOE is definitely, a lot of the people here in particular working on H1Z1 have had a lot of experience with this stuff and are taking the experience they've gotten from previous projects and really applying it, directly 100% here in a real meaningful way. So I think everything, plus Smedley's behind it and he's not going to let it go bad. So,
Yeah.
there's always that. All right. So that's that part of the art, and then the next question that's asked of him is what's his favorite thing to do in game, and his answer is scavenging. He loves scavenging, going around finding stuff places, hoarding things and crafting things and scavenging and scavenging and scavenging. So I would imagine all of the level design and art related people, or art people who are related to level design in any way, are probably really, really enjoying scavenging because they've got the level design and map knowledge experience to know where the stuff is at, where the good spots are at. And so for them to go through the game and scavenge is like, I have product knowledge, look at me just run around and pwn this environment. So, yeah.
Well, the question is, will loot be like procedurally generated, or will it be like, same thing in the same place all the time?
Oh, it's definitely not going to be. There's going to be. We've seen some of the screenshots of like a convenience store, for example, with a bunch of little nodes on the shelves and places for different spots where things can potentially spawn. But what spawns there and what actual type of item it is, as well as the position it spawns at, can be pretty wide open and varied, and not every spot is going to have something spawn at it every time. From what I understand, things are always basically waiting to spawn. Is when things are picked up, the game's basically sitting there saying, all right, can I spawn something here yet? Are there enough people far enough away? Has there been enough time since it's been spawned? And then as soon as it can, it's going to spawn more items, but it's not going to do it while somebody's in the room. So I'm not 100% sure what the distance is on it. Yeah, Cycles, this is scotch.
And this isn't wine. I'm totally not drinking wine right now.
All right. So, any other thoughts on, scavenging, love for scavenging, experiences with scavenging? I've had a lot of fun with it in the game so far, just going and trying to find stuff. It's been really different in different builds. Sometimes I find a bunch of lighters. The first time I found a bunch of crowbars. There's literally one of my sessions where I had like 6 orange Bic lighters in my inventory. I realized I kept picking up. It's like, holy crap. Why do I have all these lighters? There's no way I'm going to need to light this many things on fire.
Lighting zombies on fire, duh.
With a little orange Bic lighter. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think I would burn my
You gotta
hand
want it,
first.
man.
That's why you grab the bottle of wine and like throw it at the zombies, have it break, and then throw the Bic lighter at them, and then it
You're
explodes.
wasting wine on zombies in the Zombocalypse test?
True.
Wait,
That's true.
hold on a second.
Didn't occur to me.
What wine are you drinking that's actually flammable like that? Like, I can understand if you're doing a flambe or something and the pan's
Maybe I
already hot.
confused it with
but-
vodka.
Yeah, okay. Vodka, wine, same difference. I
Easy
understand.
mistake to make.
Oh gosh.
They come in about the same size
Um,
bottle, right?
well, so my experience of scavenging, the biggest experience I had of it, I would say, was probably that last stream I did with Adam at PAX Prime. And so we were really desperately trying to find items that we needed to start a little bit of farming, because a lot of people that read about the game on Reddit, talk about the game on Reddit, and were in the chat, had so many questions about how farming works. And I think a lot of those questions are still unanswered, mostly because nobody's really shown it off well in a stream so far, because you need a whole bunch of things to be able to make that work. Water equals vodka equals wine. No. So trying to make farming happen on a stream is very difficult, but people still have a lot of questions about that. And so my experience scavenging was mostly sort of desperately looking for certain specific items that I couldn't find. So I'm actually curious how hard it will be, because it's so hard right now. I'm hoping that it won't be that difficult to start something like farming eventually once the game goes live, because I know a lot of people are interested in having that be their sort of livelihood in game, making their own food, setting up their own bases, and then being able to make their own food at those bases, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we need serious time to grow the
things.
things.
Yeah. That's good, though, because that gives you an incentive to, again, try and dig in a little bit and set up a secure area instead of just roaming, although I could see that being appealing to people, too. So
I use the phrase permanent sustainable infrastructure. It's not just a little crap shack somewhere that you've built up and you dug a little garden in front of. No, it's you got to have a lot of stuff. If you just have a little patch where you're growing some corn or some carrots or something, what's going to happen? A bunny is going to come by. It's going to eat it. And there go your carrots. Like you've been waiting a week. You're like, oh man, I'm so hungry. I'm glad I planted those carrots a week ago. They're totally gonna be ready now, or whatever. And then you get this like, no, bunny, why?
then you could eat the bunny.
Yeah.
So
Well, you should have a trap nearby. Actually, I wonder if that's an interaction that'll work. Is to have a little carrot garden and then bunny traps around it.
What happens if a bird eats zombie flesh cycles?
They poop it out.
Zombird?
I
Does
don't.
that mean that the fertilizer that creates is also zomborific, and so the plants that grow from it would be, zombie infected plants, and so if you eat them, does that turn you into a zombie? Does that increase your zombie infection factor? Oh my gosh.
Bunnies are really hard to catch.
Yeah.
Dreaded bunny. Wouldn't be the first thing where a bunny was the deadliest threat. Of course, I don't think we're going to get the holy hand grenade of Antioch in H1Z1, so I hope it's not a Vorpal bunny. Yes, exactly. just as I said it, I see Cycle Steps it there. Vorpal bunny technology. I'm sure you've got the technology. It's whether or not you're going to be mean enough to implement it, other than on Halloween and other special events where you want to screw with the players.
There needs to be at least one Vorpal bunny.
I would say do one for Halloween and then do another one for Easter.
April Fools?
April Fools, that would work too. I gotta imagine there's gotta be some other interaction for April 1st or something, like if you give like you can stop a bear for a moment if you give it beer. If you put beer on the ground, it'll stop charging at you, grab the beer and drink it or whatever, and then just kind of walk around drunk. That'd be pretty great interaction. I don't know how much the animal rights enthusiasts would like that, but I think it'd be hilarious. That's just me.
Or like every third bear has like some epic weapon on it or something.
Oh
Or they
wow.
could say that and it not actually happen, but that would just be evil.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
This is
be.
why I'm not a game dev.
I keep telling them, don't give us a release date. Just drop H1Z1 on Steam someday, and then people will find out. People will find out very quickly. That's
Oh
not
yeah.
There's no problem with getting people in. Day one, it is still going to be swarm. You're still going to have full servers. Don't worry. Yeah. Depends on what created the zombies, the virus, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that is. I really don't know if zombie bird poop would actually have that sort of effect, and I don't know if. And you see, that's another thing. There's various aspects of realism that people have said, like they kind of want to see an H1Z1, and they understand if it's not in. And poop is one of them. Like, I don't know if bathroom breaks are going to be a part of the game. Maybe eventually, but maybe we can get confirmation from that from Cycles McHurts there, because
I got it.
yeah, I mean it's something that on one hand it's a detail that it's kind of weird to have to include, especially because it's a weird detail to have to include in gameplay. But on the other hand, like. You can't just be eating nasty stuff and then just be like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing just fine. I just took a little health damage." You see? Poop quests? No, there's no. I don't know that there's going to be quests in that way right now. Undecided on H1Z1 poo. Gotcha. Good to know.
Oh my god. Oh my god. No. No, 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 no.
Well, 7 Days to Die has the dysentery, doesn't it? Which is just, if I'm not mistaken, it's just an icon that's like a butt pooping or something. So.
Really?
You get dysentery in the long dark. It just messed up your health, but it didn't go into any detail. So.
Oh my god. There's actually a poop icon. Oh my god.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's terrible. Don't include that. It's unnecessary.
Okay.
Though it would be kind of hilarious.
All right.
Who knows?
All right.
Moving on.
Let's get back on track here. So, the question was asked how they got to the H1Z1 art style from, like how did it get to where it was at? What helped it form and such? And they said, yeah, it's actually something they've basically kind of looked at other products, other zombie apocalypse genre sort of stuff, and trying to model it after that. And I would imagine not only because there's going to be a great deal of familiarity from that, because people are already used to seeing things that are done in that way, but it's also that a lot of the hard work has already been done. A lot of these shows have done a great deal of research on what things are going to look like in different states of being abandoned and dilapidated and such. So why reinvent the wheel when the work's already been done? Just leverage off of that and keep going. So what do you folks think about that? I mean, it's basically take PlanetSide 2 and mod it with zombie apocalypse looking aesthetic, and that's kind of part of the story of H1Z1. So Tess, what do you think about the subject? I see. Well, you're both kind of smiling a little bit. It's like I feel like you both have something to say. Tess, why don't you start?
I mean, like I said, I really trust the developers a lot. I think that everything that I've seen from them so far has been pretty amazing. So whatever way they choose to go with the art style, whether it's based on sort of the fabric of PlanetSide 2 and redone in a zombie way, which I haven't seen enough of PlanetSide 2 to say, but I don't think that's the case at all. So I mean, it like running around in that game feels like you're in the woods a lot, or you're in sort of these. When I played the game, it was winter, and so it felt very kind of like desolate and wintry, and like the zombie apocalypse had rolled through. It felt very authentic to me. So I think that whatever way they choose to go, the way that they're going so far is working for them, and I think they've made so many of the right choices so far. I trust them to continue to make them. That's my take on it.
It's interesting because PlanetSide 2 is futuristic, but also like a lot of the points you take, like the bases are abandoned, so there is some sort of like feeling of ruin sometimes there too. So I can totally see them being able to carry that over and kind of elaborate on it. And also, I mean, the Forge Light engine is just freaking gorgeous, so I have a feeling that pretty much whatever they come up with is going to be great looking. So
I'm sure it will be. Everything I've seen up to this point is really great, and what I think is one of the best parts is the area is really looking lived in. Nature looks like nature. Areas where people kind of live and work and do logging and that sort of stuff. It looks like it's been used a little while ago, but it's kind of abandoned a little bit. There's little camps here and there. Some of them look more and less used than other ones. It's kind of a really interesting thing, because then you also get into the cities, and some of them look kind of grimy and run down, like they've been abandoned for a while. But I think about, there's places that exist that aren't actually abandoned, that are being used functionally, that look that grimy already. So
Yeah.
they can actually really go really far with the grimy, nasty, dilapidated, broke down looking stuff. And I've gotten to see twice now, just a little bit at SOE Live, and then for a little bit longer at the Game 24 event, this section of city that's being worked on, these big warehouses, just a large expanse of warehouses and apartments, and it's definitely a much more urban sort of area, that instead of the more kind of open rural stuff that we see throughout most of the rest of the game. And it looked great. It looked dingy. It looked worn down. It looked like it had been there for a while. That people could just pretty much, it just needs to get power running to it, and you could get back up running the way it was right before things happened. I think it looked great, and I'm really excited to actually be able to play in those areas and kind of run around in them a bit. So that's some stuff that I'm really excited about with the art style, and what we haven't even gotten to see with the art yet. There's so much. I actually got to see another place that had a lot of the signs. We had there was a Clegg Sandwiches. There was the
Oh yeah, I saw that.
there was the meat shop. There was the I think it was like a pizza extravaganza or whatever. There's like, I think there were 3 or 4 of the different employee named or themed restaurants all in one little area. So it was actually pretty funny, and I can't remember. I think that was on the 4K monitor. I didn't have anything to take a picture of it, though I wanted to.
I saw it when I played it live, so they had it then as well.
Yeah, same build.
Yeah, I unfortunately never got to see the town. Sad face. I did climb up really, really, really high though, and checked out the radio tower. That was pretty neat. And also where the zombie drop happened, not too far from there. I also I think I found a church, but I couldn't go inside, which I was a little bit disappointed by, just because you expect to be able to go inside pretty much everywhere, in an open world environment. So I'm sure that that's something that eventually will change. It just wasn't quite ready yet. Test Gecko Pizza Extravaganza. No, why? Oh my goodness.
I saw the church that you couldn't open. I also, in one of my previous sessions, I did see the church that you could get into that was open. And I went all the way to the back, and I tried to find the place where they had found the guns in one of the earlier dev streams, but alas, it is not always a gun there every time. But I think it's cool to be able to find a rifle and some ammo for it in the back of a church. Why not?
Where do you keep your guns? Jeez.
I should probably get one of those now that you mention it.
A gun or a church?
First one, then the other? Nah, I don't know. I'm probably more of a crossbow guy personally.
Speaking of crossbows, that picture they posted looked awesome. I want one.
Yes, 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 yes. And the fact that it'll actually be craftable looking that good, not looking like a bunch of crude sticks that were kind of rigged together with duct tape and other things, but we're going to craft something that looks nice because we're James Bond MacGyver and we craft awesome stuff. Um, that's something I'm really excited to be able to get going with in the game because it seems like it's going to have probably better trajectory, better accuracy, aimability, immediate usage. Reload time's probably going to be slower than the bow, but I'm sure if you're just looking to have it, kind of carry it around, and if you need a one shot to stop someone in front of you, you've got it. I don't know if we're gonna have like a heart shot with bears. I remember I was hiking in Alaska. It was like a big hike with the cruise that I was on, and we had to stop with this bridge because it was salmon season. There's this bear underneath. He was just getting all sorts of salmon. He already had two in his mouth and was trying to get a third. The big old fat greedy
Oh my
bear.
God.
And then he eventually meandered on. But while he was there hanging out, one of the guys said, "Yeah, no, you couldn't put me that close to a bear with a crossbow and not have me take it down." So he was talking about like the angle of the shot, right past the shoulder blade, right in the specific spot, and it is possible for a trained hunter to be able to take down a bear with a crossbow in a single shot, but I don't know if we're actually going to get that amount of fidelity with the hit system, or if bears are always going to be like, you're not that trained, you're going to have to fight it, sort of thing. There's one last thing Bill Yeatts got to talk about, and someone was asking about a darker and scarier game. And he said lighting is actually something that's constantly being tuned, saturation as well, and he even wants to see about putting blood on stuff and seeing how that changes the lighting and the effects of things. So that's really cool. Water effects and waters on fluids on surfaces, that'll be really awesome. But just as much that, adjustments to lighting and saturation. Now the build that we got to play on, the PAX SOE Live build, unfortunately the night was not how they wanted it. Night was turned up way too bright, and it actually made it kind of hard to tell what time of day it was when it was snowing, because it was like grayscale during the day and grayscale during the night. You see just about as far either way. So that's not going to be the case. Hopefully when we see the new build on Thursday, or possibly sooner if they feel like showing a little bit of it, we'll be able to see what night is going to be like a little bit closer to kind of what we'll see in early access, because we've seen different phases of night in H1Z1. We've seen different phases of night in PlanetSide. It used to be super dark, going way back. It used to be just the blackness, and you'd just be looking for muzzle flashes. So lighting,
See, I would almost want that in H1Z1. Not for it to be so dark that you couldn't see anything, but definitely for it to be atmospheric. And so when I played it at PAX with Adam, he showed me rain, and like the way that things the way that things reflect, and the way that the water falls and saturates everything like a deer's butt, even stuff like that. It's so but I mean, true, it was one of the things that stood out to me, how actually wet its like fur looked, and it was really, really cool to see that. And I think overall the lighting, once it gets darker and more atmospheric, it'll make for a lot of really funny, sort of potentially frightening experiences. I think right now, like whenever I play DayZ, it's either really, 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 really dark or super bright. There's no middle ground where you can still see things, but it's still and do things, and have your daily activities in the game not be so hindered by the darkness, but have it be that atmospheric kind of creepy, like things can jump out at you and you're a little bit more nervous about it because you're less aware of your surroundings feel. And so I think that they definitely have the potential to do that right, which I think will be cool once it happens. Because scares are good, right, Uni?
Yes, absolutely. Well, people are saying in chat that like having a moonlighting would be great. especially if the moon was different
Yeah.
phases, because then it would still
Yeah.
be, pitch dark some nights if you had nothing to mitigate that. But then otherwise, having dim lights, you could at least, move around if you really had to, would be a good call, I think. So,
Yeah, actually, dynamic lighting based on the moon is a sun and moon position is definitely something possible, and I think it's actually going to be something that we'll be able to see very early on. Very early on, not just like here's the skybox, here's the moon, here's it reflecting off the water, but actually having very realistic portrayal of what light would look like, even the one bounce off of surfaces, how it would kind of look. Um, really excited to see how that stuff is going to work. It's going to be nice. And then the thing that I kind of feel like is going to be the interesting part. One of the earlier builds that I played, it was just bright enough, and there was just enough reflection on things that you weren't in pitch darkness. You weren't looking at the entire model. You were just looking at a bunch of silhouettes in the distance. You'd see silhouettes of trees, silhouettes of plants, bushes, silhouettes of animals, and the ones that stand out are the ones that are moving more. So it did work. Plus the kind of eyes adjusting, that kind of gets a little bit lighter, but gets that kind of film grain effect. That's pretty awesome, and it is actually pretty realistic looking. So that's definitely really nice. Definitely gives the fact that you're playing in the darkness a worthwhile feel, a meaningful feel, and also makes getting shot at with bows in the darkness really scary, because you don't know where it's coming from.
For sure. Sorry, I'm talking plants I do smack in chat.
It's all good.
All the Sony games. All the Sony game hype. Awesome. Really awesome. I need to play some PlanetSide too. I've actually I played it a tiny little bit, just enough to sort of get it started and know that it worked. Although this was on my previous computer, so I have no idea if it would work now. But it seemed like a really cool game, and I know you play it a ton, Uni. You're gonna have to introduce me someday.
For sure, yeah. If you like Firefall, I think you would like it too. So
cool. The weather seems pretty advanced compared to a lot of the zombie genres out there. I agree, Fickety. One of the cool things that we got to show off when I was streaming with Adam was all of the different sort of day-night cycles, and some of the, not as much of the different weather, but a little bit. I think it's so cool. Like, one of my favorite experiences when I streamed it from SOE Live was I went into a house when it was snowing, and it was still kind of like lightly snowing, and everything was really colorful. And I went inside the house, and I was only in there for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes at most, just like scavenging, looking for all the things. And I come back out, and everything is covered in this like blanket of snow. So pretty, and it felt so realistic. I was like, oh my god, it's like it was the same feeling that you get when you actually walk outside to a blanket of snow. Like, I ski, so it's happened to me a lot in different places, and it's just a very unique feeling, and they totally captured that. I was like, to have that in a game, to have that feeling in a game is incredibly impressive to me that they managed to do that. It's very cool. So I hope to see that in other sort of weather as well. The rainstorm that suddenly comes up, the tornado that's off in the horizon that may drop zombies.
The other thing about the weather is, at E3, I got a chance to play with rain, see what it looked like at 50%, and see what it looked like at full blast. It is so gnarly at 100%, like rain being maxed out. It feels like your character is just gonna fall down from the water being poured on them. Like, it's just torrential downpour. Everything is instantly soaked. Just, puddles forming everywhere. I'm sure if they get a dynamic water system, it'd be interesting to see cars actually getting picked up and kind of floated downstream a little bit. That'd be a really interesting effect. But yeah, when it rains and it's maxed out, it's more than just pouring. It is buckets. It is buckets and buckets of water. It is awesome.
That's so cool. your mod Ariel is saying he was distracted by a beautiful sunset and then zombies ate my face. That almost happened to me. I swear that almost happened to me because I was just like, oh, it's so pretty, and then almost like fell off the cliff and there were zombies down below. Because it's so pretty, you want to just look around at it. Oh my gosh. Half caches of supplies or salvage get moved. Oh, good point. Will the weather affect your items? So, like, if it's raining and you leave your stuff sitting out, not in a shelter or a box of some kind, say you've got some, I don't know, food items or something like that, will that stuff get ruined? Will the weather have an effect on things in the world besides yourself? That's a good question.
I would imagine it will. I'm sure fires will be put out. I would imagine if you have something that needs to be kept dry and it isn't being kept dry, it's gonna get ruined. If you've got like books and stuff being left out, I would imagine, or maps, I could see those getting damaged even. Later Cycles, thank you for stopping in, my friend. Is the build up? Good question. Good question. So other than that, yeah, I could definitely see things that are getting potentially damaged and their contents getting damaged because the the effects of weather and sunlight over a period of time cause it to kind of get cracked or break down, or the glue to wear away, or whatever it is, depending upon the type of box it is.
Absolutely.
So I could definitely see that sort of thing, and I actually really hope we'll see that sort of thing. I'm hoping it'll even go further, and we'll potentially see lightning damage structures and take down trees.
Yeah, start fires and stuff. That could be a crazy chain reaction of just destruction.
Yep.
I know, they're mocking us with their ability to play already. Not cool.
Seriously. It's not fair. Just give us a taste. Give us like, I don't know, give us like a tiny little town to walk around in. Like you can have the rest of the map. Just give us a town. like a max of 3 people. Yeah, or like a day when we could all play or something. And we'll break everything for you, and it'll be lots of feedback. Let us play around in it for a day. That would work.
Honestly,
they do that on Steam all the time. They give you a game for like a weekend and then it's gone.
Yeah, right? Well, if it was ready for them to give it to us for a day, they'd be ready to give it to us for longer. That's the thing. It's not quite at the point where, and I'm sure like the security and deployment and all of that sort of stuff is something that not necessarily is being waited on till the last minute, but it's probably something that they kind of need to know what all systems are going to be in place first before really being able to anticipate, what tech needs are going to be, what's being transmitted back and forth between players, between the server, through the server between players, that sort of stuff. So I could imagine not necessarily that it's being waited on as a last step, but that it ends up being something that kind of gets delayed till towards the end of the process for it to actually be able to get finished. I'm sure if they could give us a build that we could just a downloadable standalone or something that wasn't any sort of a security risk, they totally would. But it's totally a huge security risk, and they're totally not going to risk it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know they're not actually holding out on us or whatever. I know they want us to play it as much as we want to play, but we want to play. Just excited. So
they seem like they make opportunities to play available about once a month, plus or minus, tech conventions. Like I keep playing at various different places. Like I said, I just played it a couple weeks ago, and we're coming up on October here, so I'm gonna see if I can maybe arrange a visit down to SOE headquarters and maybe swing through on a Thursday and crash the EQN workshop show too. But yeah, that's something I'm really excited to see what the next build is going to have available, what kind of features, what kind of improvements, what changes, and really I guess I don't know if this one's going to be like the kind of barometer for how close they're going to be to early access, but I think this will help give them internally a bit of an indication for when we will maybe be getting a chance at seeing early access, if it's going to be like a sooner or a later sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to see
Yeah.
that build.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
me too. I wish that I could. I wish that I could teleport myself to, California, so I could go visit again. That would be so cool. Sadly, too far. Too far. But
You teleport very
definitely.
slowly on planes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Don't expect to be the new build to be a huge new thing. Okay. So H1Z1, can you
Okay.
tell us what like the major differences are between the new build and the last one that we've seen? Just out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Good
Yeah,
question.
I'm sure you've got an email with the build notes somewhere. You're the community manager. And we will take meticulous notes and cut a highlight.
Yes.
Yes. So we've talked about the developer spotlight with Bill Yeatts. We talked about his experience at SOE, being a veteran there. We talked about deep water being placed when there's going to be swimming and actual volumes of water accessible. Night looks way better now. Awesome. Yeah, new
Cool.
lighting system's a big deal. Like, don't say
For
that's a
sure.
small. That's huge. I'm way excited for that.
Grappling? Oh, like with the zombies. Cool.
That's
I
also.
instantly thought grappling and Landmark. I'm
I
sorry.
did too.
I saw the tweet of the zombie trying to grapple a deer, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, I saw that too. It looked really funny.
Yeah, it did.
Really interesting.
big old zombie hug.
It's really dumb.
How it
Zombie
caught up
hugs.
to it though. Gonna be focusing
New
on
things
being
crafting,
crafted.
new things being
Ooh.
crafted. Once again, you understate like how awesome this updated build is gonna be by a big amount. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. My question: do you know if it's gonna have the admin controls available, or if it's gonna be one that's meant for conventions and expos and stuff? Because I really want to see bear versus vehicle, how that works out, how it turns out. Because that's something I don't think I've seen yet. I don't think anybody's gotten a chance to see it except maybe internally. Of course, maybe it
You
happens.
sound like
What's
you have a vendetta against bears, Neuro. What's up with that?
Well, no, like I said, they're like the raid boss of the game. Everything else, yeah, you can take it down with 1 or 2 arrows. It's no big deal. And then there's bears. They're on a pedestal of their own. They're like a completely different sort of beast relative to everything else. They are tough. They are brutal. They are really powerful. So that's kind of why I'm like, well, what's the toughest thing players get, and what's the toughest thing nature gets, and let's see them fight.
Mm. That makes sense.
Deer versus a vehicle, I know what that looks like. That's sad. That's just sad. Wolf versus vehicle, that's even more sad. Fish versus vehicle, that's just weird. Don't even get into the bird. I guess maybe a chicken, but I don't know. I think a chicken might win. Don't ask how.
14
Through the
zombies hanging
windshield?
onto an off-roader. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Celebrity H1Z1 grudge match. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Well, I'm sure that as in other places, there will be streamer versus streamer, and then hopefully there will be some streamer cooperation as well. So some interesting things could happen. Very interesting things. We'll see.
Mutually
Bear
assured
versus vehicle.
self-destruct. Nice. A bomb goes off in that area. That's what happens.
You see like a cloud of smoke from a
Yeah,
mile away.
Big old mushroom cloud. Yeah. So yeah, water and swimming, mega terrain system, art potentially can change at any time. Art people love scavenging. People who know the map system love scavenging. Just in general, they do. I know Clegg loves it too. The art style is designed to kind of mimic other zombie apocalypse survival sorts of games and products that exist, because they've already done a lot of the work. And the lighting is constantly being tuned and the saturation, and we're hopefully going to be getting a chance to see that with this upcoming build here, because there's going to be a big lighting pass, and that's totally awesome. So let's move on to weapons.
A good thing to move on to.
Yeah. So there was the article that Jimmy wrote up, the developer, the dev blog thing, and he was kind of talking about the process for how a weapon gets from start to finish. And it's a big process. Like, he describes it in a few paragraphs, and it's pretty concise. But I've seen that production pipeline. I see all the gears working for how it all goes. And yeah, it's an intensive process. It's not something that you can just like snap your fingers and make something. Maybe if you've already got something set that's really easy to duplicate, like going from one melee weapon that you swing like a club to a similar shape, similar proportion melee weapon that you swing like a club. That's not that big of a deal. That's almost just a reskin and some stat variation, which basically kind of skips some of the first few steps of the process. But really, where it starts is actually with the item being modeled before anything else. There isn't like a little box with another little box off of it that they go pew 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 and then like, okay, now put a weapon skin on this. It's completely the opposite. First, it starts with the model. Once the model is designed, once the kind of the larger piece as well as all of the smaller moving pieces have been designed, then it can actually be taken to an animator who specializes in rigging. Now, rigging is the process of kind of assigning the bones to everything, assigning the movements and the weights of everything. Now, and because it's a weapon, you're going to be having mostly rigid bodies. Other than a spring, I can't really think of too many things on a weapon, on a firearm, that are actually going to get deformed in the process of the firearm being used. Other than springs compressing, it's all a lot of solid pieces. So things are going to slide back and forth, but there's no amount of like, the kind of weighting that you have to do on a character model when they've got their arm moving, so that way the shirt and all the fabric and everything moves properly. It's not nearly that. It's just making sure all the little bits and pieces line up and move in accurate ways. They don't actually set the timing of any of that stuff. They just put the things in place and make sure they slide properly. And anything that has timing to it, like one part moves, then the other part moves, then one part moves back and the other one moves back, making sure that stuff is lined up. Then the next part is actually taking it to an animator, and they're actually going to be putting in the animations, what it looks like for the reloading to be going on, what it looks like to fire the weapon, how it moves, if it's the first shot versus if it's a shot being fired after one's already been fired, the process of loading it, what's it called, pulling back the pin or whatever, getting it primed, pulling back the hammer or whatever, and then once all of those moving parts are in place, then the designer finally gets to really start going forward with it. When it's just solid and it's just kind of able to be put in the character's hands, that's when stuff starts to be able to get modified with it. But it's I would say a lot more of the game interaction, like how the weapon actually moves with the character model, how the weapon moves in the world, how the character reacts when they're holding that weapon in different situations. That's kind of the next thing that happens. And Jimmy says he spends a lot of time back and forth in the artists, the animators' offices, working on that sort of stuff, making sure that it, not just that it looks right, but that it feels right. And he's actually said basically that the feel is more important than it being 100% realistic, both for the look of things as well as the actual functionality, because things still need to be fun and balanced for gameplay.
I think it's actually really interesting because I've talked to him about this before as well at SOE Live. the tuning of the weapon and making sure that it feels right while you shoot it, while you hold it, that's so huge. And it never really occurred to me how much they go through to make that feel as good as it does. And you could definitely see, if you're looking at a game where, something as simple as swinging an axe, right? Not even a first-person gun, but an axe that you're just like swinging at a zombie. If you swing your axe and it doesn't react in the way that you expect it to, you're kind of the immersion is instantly thrown off. Which this happens to me a lot in DayZ, unfortunately, because it's just not, things aren't tuned in such a way that it feels natural, that it feels immediate, like it should. If you're whacking something with an axe, there's like a time that takes, and there's a feel to the click that should feel kind of authentic, and that I've never seen that, or I haven't seen that in other games. I'm looking forward to seeing that more in H1Z1. It felt really good when I played it a little bit. And the same thing goes for shooting, or shooting even like the crossbow or bow and arrow or whatever other weapons they might have. There's going to be a feel to each weapon that doesn't break the immersion. That really feels like it belongs and it's timed correctly and it is responsive to your clicks or your mouse clicks or however it is that you're using to control the weapon. So I think it's really interesting the depth that they go to make that work well.
Absolutely. And it is a lot of work. I mean, to say that it's all on the side of the weapon is also wrong, because there's also what the character is actually doing, how their weight is moving, how they're actually holding it, how they're actually responding in the different animations and the different actions, and whether they're doing it while they're standing still or while they're doing it while they're moving, doing it while they're crouched, doing it while they're crouched and moving. That's a lot of different things to have to consider, and it has to look good in all of those states. What's so funny, Yuni?
Yeah. I'm so
Touch asking the loudness questions.
Yeah, apparently my keyboard is super loud. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. I'm just curious because I've had this is totally off topic, so we don't have to talk about it. But I've gotten some comments that mine is a little bit loud, but not ridiculously so. And when I got a mechanical keyboard, I expected it to be super, super loud. But the brown switches aren't as bad. So I was curious what you had.
I have no idea. Sorry, but yeah, something was interesting to me, kind of about the weapon thing. What was it they talked about? The cylinder fire thing?
Yeah, that's towards the end of it.
Cone of fire. Mm-hmm. Were you going to touch on that a little later?
Yeah, just going to kind of go down the list here. So I definitely do want to talk about that. Just kind of, I guess, go real quick through some of the other details that they talked about. So once the weapon's actually functional and all the moving parts and all the animations are there, that's when the tuning really, really begins. And they start with realistic data for the ballistics and usability and that sort of stuff. And then they modify it from there. So if the realistic numbers somehow work out perfectly for gameplay, great. But a lot of things are instead being balanced based on the ranges that we're actually going to be seeing players from, and actually supposed to be able to hit players from, actually being affected potentially by weather. I think that's something that, while we haven't seen it yet, it could be a factor of arrows having the disadvantage that wind can just kind of grab them and push them a lot further than they would do with bullets and slugs and other sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, Fikidi, they already have parabolic trajectory, most definitely. If you watch some of the trailers, and maybe they aren't all the most, I guess, clean with the representation of that, just in gameplay in general, with the bows and even with the firearms, I've been able to see the bullet goes up and the bullet goes down. It most definitely does not fly in a straight line like a beautiful VS weapon. So, and that's part of it. They're definitely going to have things that they feel everything's going to feel realistic within the context of all of the other weapons and the ranges that we're going to be playing. But if you're someone that's like, oh yeah, no, I could take someone's head clean off from a mile away with my sniper rifle that I've trained for 5 years to use, it's like, well, sorry, buddy, this ain't that kind of game. Like, It's if you're killing people from a mile away, we've created a situation where someone can get killed and have absolutely nothing they can do about it or be able to learn from it, and that's not something they want to do.
No. So that just basically ruins the fun of the game because you have no chance of retaliating or reacting or any sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're going to avoid that. Realism is nice, but they'll limit realism for the sake of making sure the game is actually very, very fun for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I respect that. That's a good thing to do. It's not, there's aspects of realism, but if 100% of realism went into the game, nobody's going to survive more than a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that long.
Also,
you'd have to have a day take a week. That would be the only way that would work.
That's the other thing I was going to say is if a day actually takes the full 24 hours, that'd be ridiculous, but they're definitely not going to do that. At least maybe some servers will have that as a server rule set. By and large, they're not going to do that because people want to be able to play during the day and during the night, and if they only play during the same time every day for only 1 hour, it sucks to be at night every single time when you're trying to play with your buddies.
Yeah.
So definitely it's good that they're doing it like that. But anyway, back on the subject of weapons here. Now, okay, so there's a lot to, I guess, realism, like what they believe can be adjusted, needs to be adjusted, should be adjusted. And I mean, there's a big list of things that can be done. It's the recoil, reload, your actual kind of aim down sights accuracy, where the sights actually line up and where the bullet goes relative to it. They want weapons to be learnable, and they want them to be things that people can get good at and be proficient in. But they don't want it to be like super easy mode, and they also don't want it to be to the point where you don't want to use a gun half the time because you're worried that you're just gonna fire off a bunch of rounds and miss and not be able to make it worthwhile. Later, H1Z1, Mr. Greg Henniger over there. Thank you for stopping in. Or I guess whoever.
Rocket launcher, GW.
What was that about a rocket launcher?
USB rocket launcher with Uni.
Tynan said he modded it and put it on his dog, and having a dog, I need one.
There you go.
Awesome.
So, cylinder of fire. That's kind of an interesting subject. Because the way it was kind of being described seemed interesting, that instead of being here's the end of the gun, here's where the bullet is being projected out, and it can go anywhere in this cone, that definitely doesn't make the weapon feel as learnable, and it definitely, if you're relying on kind of almost relying on RNG for the bullets going where you need them to go to when you're firing rapid fire, you're firing a bunch of shots in sequence. That really isn't a satisfying mechanic, and it's really hard to actually truly learn a weapon that way. So it seems like what they're actually doing is designing it instead in such a way that it checks, okay, here's the barrel of the gun, but then here's where the ammo's actually being fed in from, and somewhere inside of this cylinder from this point to this point is where the bullet's actually going to project out from. And the idea is that based on how you're holding, where the weapon is actually being held, and where it's actually positioned, that's going to be a better indication of where the bullet's going to go, rather than just being kind of this willy-nilly spray out of a cone. So the idea is that weapons will hopefully be more satisfying to use and a lot more learnable and functional to work with. I really like the idea. I think it's great to actually take the vectors of the weapon itself into account rather than just an endpoint that bullets are released from. The one thing that I'm worried about and wondering about, though, and Uni, you can definitely speak to this one, I'm worried if they are going to need to, or if it's going to have to be a thing, where the bullet actually gets projected straight forward relative to where you are, rather than where it appears to come out, like they do in PlanetSide 2. Because in PlanetSide 2, it's where the crosshair is at, where the bullet goes, and even if you've got a rock in front of you, the bullet will kind of go through it and go where you need to. That was basically their kind of brute force solution to not putting more hover on the mag rider so it can shoot down through stuff.
It depends on what you are, I guess, because I've seen it hit like, walls and surfaces before, but then I've also seen it go through stuff. So, but yeah, that is a good point.
It's based on the crosshair in PlanetSide 2. Even if there's a piece of debris occluding, or some piece of terrain occluding your position from where the projectile ejects to where the crosshair is actually positioned, it'll still travel seamlessly through it, because it's just a camera trick. We see the bullet coming out from about here or whatever, kind of coming, from where the weapon is, but the rest of the game or the rest of the server actually sees it coming out from dead center, and that's actually where it gets projected from. It's a really weird trick.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's something they're going to have to do or not. If it's I haven't tried it myself in H1Z1. I honestly actually hope they don't have that. I actually hope that if you're too close and you're, not leaning far enough away, or move far enough away from a wall, that you're shooting the wall instead of shooting around it where the crosshair is aiming. So you actually have to be cognizant of walls. If they actually put, ricochet on bullets, that could be a problem. You accidentally shoot a wall and the bullets bounce back and kill you. That wouldn't be a good thing, but yeah,
that would be interesting to do from an implementation perspective.
Bullets
I
deflecting.
don't think I've seen any game that has ricochet before. Have you?
I don't remember the name of it, but I have seen games that have ricochet. I know I've seen at least one indie game that had it, and I can understand why it's something that a lot of people want to avoid, because there's so many aspects of it. Like, does it deflect 100% off of the flat surface? Do you include the bump mapping? Do you dampen it based on the material it hits? And there's just so many factors involved. How much less damage should it do after it ricochets? But yeah, that's definitely something that'd be a real interesting touch to put on the game, to actually have bullets, if you're too close to a wall and you shoot, it comes and hits you.
Yeah.
I lied. There is a game that I know of that has ricochet, but it's actually a really big part of the mechanic of a specific class. Borderlands 2 has the Necromancer, which has an ability or a skill tree really, that is based off of that. So it's actually a really weird character to play, because the better, sort of the higher level you get, the better this ability gets, and the less you have to aim. Like, you just shoot stuff, and the ricochets do more damage than the original bullet. And you're basically guaranteed to hit. It's kind of a weird...
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty hardcore. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want that to have... I wouldn't want it to be like that in H1Z1. I would want it to be a lot more realistic. But it could be a neat mechanic, if you know that you're going to hit, like, say, I mean, would it ever be possible to use that to your advantage, like to aim your ricochet if someone is hiding around a corner? That would be interesting.
Do you have a physics degree?
I mean, if you've got enough ammo to waste, and it's a really sturdy metal plate behind them that you're firing on, yeah. I mean, if it's a small caliber weapon that's not going to actually damage that metal, it's not going to actually destroy the metal, yeah, I could see fragments deflecting off and definitely being able to hit somebody. I don't know how lethal it would be, but yeah, no, I could.
I'm gonna come find y'all and be like, okay, hold on, move like 2 feet to your left. Okay, right there. Okay.
Wait, let me do maths first.
Yeah, hold on. What's the square root of 27? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that might be a little bit too involved, at the very least for.
Well, no,
least, and maybe not ever, but. Huh.
I don't
It's
expect
interesting to
players
think
are going to
about,
do the
though.
RoboCop shot where they're like, okay, I'm just going to shoot a bullet off this electrical box and it'll hit you. Like that. RoboCop, I don't remember if that's in one of the movies or one of the I think maybe he does it in both, but not the recent RoboCop, one of the earlier, older ones. Um, but yeah, I could definitely. It's not. It's the idea that if somebody is just around a corner and there's a metal wall behind them, you're not expecting that you're gonna, headshot them off a ricochet, but it's kind of plays in with suppressing fire. You fire in that direction anyway just to prevent them from coming out there because you don't want to get hit. And if you're able to leverage off of that suppressing fire to actually have the bullet ricochet back and hit them, well, hell's bells, might as well. But other than, I don't know if that's something that would be tactically relevant or not. Bullets ricochet off natural rock quite a bit. Yeah, actually, my first time firing a shotgun, I was at some weird rave in the desert or whatever. These two kind of weird hippies there, and they were just kind of shooting guns off in the distance. It's like, all right, but make sure you shoot in the distance. If you shoot that rock over there, you're gonna kill us all. It's like, good to know.
Sounds like a party.
Yeah. Yeah. 2000 was a weird year. Anyway.
Okay, so apparently there are a lot of games where Ricochet is a thing. People are listing them in chat, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something they could do if they, really wanted to, but it is a feature that could wait well after early access to put in, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
It could kind of go in at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Hippies with guns
There's
are
a lot of
dangerous.
things that have been talked about, I think, that would be extremely cool if and when they add them, but they're kind of, I don't think priority one. I think priority one right now is just to get the core features in so that they can really get people the game, and then they sort of see what people are, crying out in desperation for after the early release.
Yeah.
What's the next thing that everyone was like, give now. Sometimes I feel like we as viewers and gamers and streamers are like the hungry birds waiting for the mama bird to like come and feed us. That's the image I have in my head because we're so like anxious all the time.
Game. Mine.
Exactly. What? No, please. It's so bad.
Yeah, definitely cats pawing on the glass, trying to get in.
Yes.
I like that one hilarious video of the fox stuck up against the window. I'm sure you guys have seen it.
No, I haven't. I'll have to look that one up.
I'll have to try and find it. It's pretty epic.
I sort of have that happen on a daily basis on my stream. My lizard, he doesn't understand the concept of glass. Not the one that's behind me, but my other lizard that is almost escaped today. He doesn't understand that there's glass between him and the rest of the world. So he always tries to get up on the glass, and he's like a mime. He's like, I want to get through. And he can't. It's really funny because he basically
Curse your
tries.
human force field.
Yeah. He doesn't understand why that there's something there. It's so bad. Oh my gosh.
Wow, Max.
Chat.
Maximilian, that's freaking crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, just let you folks read that.
Oh my god. The rear door of a passing sheriff's car a quarter-mile away?
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane. Mime lizard, that would be a cool emote. Oh my gosh. Maybe eventually.
So, we talked about art stuff. We talked about weapons. Is there anything on either of those subjects that you'd like to cover any more details on? Talk about any other stuff? Otherwise, if there's any subjects that either of you wanted to bring up in particular, it's definitely the time for it. It is a rant show.
My biggest thing that I'm super sort of curious to see more of and learn more about is the zombie infection factor. That has been, but aside from the possibility of zombie drops, airdrops, berry drops, all that stuff, Aside from that, the thing that gets me the most excited right now is the zombie infection factor. How that's actually going to work, because they've said things about the possibility of basically becoming infected, gaining some of the zombie senses and sort of abilities for a short period of time, and then mitigating the potential sort of explosion of the infection with some medicine or something like that, so that you don't fully get infected all the way and die and become a zombie. So I'm wondering how, like, what are some of the abilities that they're, and I don't know if either of you guys know anything about this or anyone in chat knows anything about this, but I really want to know more. That is the thing I want to know the most more about, because that was a terrible sentence, I'm sorry. But basically, what actual abilities will we get? How long will we have them before we have to, apply medicine? And how easy will this medicine be to find? It would be very difficult. If you get infected, is it one of those things where you can kind of just use it for a few minutes and then lose it, or use it for a few minutes and then die? Or can you hold off the infection for a while? Like, if you get it and you're in the early stages, can you take medicine to wait until the super effects kick in at a more opportune moment? Like, can you stop taking medication for a little while, have the effects kick in, and then take medication again later? Like, how are people going to be able to use that? I'm really curious how that will work, and if it's really going to work as in as interesting a way as they make it sound.
I would hope if they make it so you can, like, basically, get super zombie powers, that it's really risky to do. Because otherwise, what's stopping people from running around like that all the time? So I would hope it's something like, you get like a 1 in 10 shot for, or maybe like 2 in 10, I don't know, some shot at getting powers, or you could die catastrophically right away. Or like you were saying, if you can hold it off, maybe you don't know how long you can hold it off, so there's no guarantee of how much time you have to use it. That might be an interesting mechanic.
I believe there's a few different factors to it that I've gotten a chance to see, and I'm not 100% how solid all of them are. First of all, there's the different levels that it tells you what level of H1Z1 virus that you've got, but I believe it also has a meter for how deep into that level of infection you are. So if you've got something that can help hold it off or reduce it, you would be able to use those at the right times to be able to keep yourself in the proper infection range. Now, there were a couple of items that I got a chance to find as well, and I think I actually picked them up off a corpse when I got to play a couple of weeks ago. One of them was a medication that appeared to be designed to be like a preventative sort of thing. Like, you take this and it's going to be harder for zombies to infect you in general, and for further infection inflicted by zombies to be possible. Because I'm pretty sure if you're hit by a zombie, there's a chance you'll get infected. But I believe on top of that, there's a chance that if you're already infected and you're hit by a zombie, that it will accelerate the infection much more rapidly than if it just naturally was continuing to spread. Now, there was another medication that I found, and I didn't actually see the effects of it work that I can think of, but I believe it said it was there to actually reduce the effects and remove the effects of it. One of them, I think, was a syringe, and the other was in pill form. So there might be various different things that you can use to kind of manage and mitigate the infection. But I think the idea would be, if you're playing as an individual and you're trying to survive, you would probably be trying to reduce and remove the virus. It's probably more when you've got a group of people working together that you would have just one of them with zombie vision, which I think you get in virus stage 2, that allows you to kind of see the scent trail, the heat trail that other creatures have left behind. And you just have one person using that, and everybody else kind of stay behind them. And if the infection starts to get into the next level, you don't have 10 people all trying to manage the infection. You have one person and 9 other people who are also helping scavenge the supplies to mitigate and manage the infection. So they will potentially be able to keep their half zombie buddy in a healthy half zombie state a lot more effectively, versus a solo player is just like, well, I I found a pharmacy like half a mile down, and I only grabbed what I could take, and now I don't think I can get back there before the zombie infection takes over. I ate all my pills already. Got hit by a couple zombies. That wasn't too good. Yeah, and I don't really see solo players doing that much with the trying to keep the zombie infection on to be able to see things, unless they're specifically like, nope, I got a gun, I got zombie vision, I'm going out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, and that might be a thing for some people, you know? And even if you just want to do it for a while just to mess with people, why not? What you were talking about earlier, though, like a group of people and like one of them is sort of zombied and the rest aren't. I just picture everyone like walking along, you know, with their guns pointed at the person's head. Oh, sorry. My dog's gonna be mad, bro. No.
Woof woof.
This is my kitty is locked away. But you would definitely hear her. You might hear her even being locked away. Is the bad
Potentially,
thing.
people can hear my cat when he's pawing at the door and trying to come
Your
in.
corgi is so cute, though. Uni's puppy. Well, not really a puppy anymore, but so cute. So cute. You should show him on stream.
If he's gonna make this much of a ruckus, then
Oh,
all right.
my doggy. Yes! Awesome! Doggy on stream! So cute! Oh my god, exclamatory.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's happened. My cat is not quite as rambunctious as our gaming's cat. Oh my god, that cat is just completely insane. It's hilarious. Oh my god, Uni Puppy! Uni Puppy. We need a Uni Puppy emote.
There you go.
Oh my god.
Okay, I think he's calmed down now.
Pretty good.
But yeah,
All right.
So cute, Uni.
All right. Uni, please do continue what you were saying about
What was I saying?
half zombie Joe with all the buddies pointing the guns at him there.
Oh yeah, I just was picturing like, you know, like people hunt with bloodhounds, like that kind of scenario, except for you're not sure if the bloodhound's going to turn around and chomp your face. So, fun little mechanic there.
Gotcha. And I also wonder what happens if a player logs off or is actually disconnected while they've got the infection. If they'll potentially, instead of getting the ability, I guess, to log back in safely, if they potentially log out and is like, nope, you were partially infected, therefore you're a zombie, and start a new character. I don't know if they would.
That's true.
That'd be
How
kind
are
of
they?
mean.
Do you know how they're going to handle logging out as far as keeping the world persistent? Like, do you camp somewhere and you're still vulnerable, or anybody know?
Right now,
Oh.
you log out and you log back in the same spot. I think, Tess, you found the edge of the world at SOE Live, didn't you?
I don't think so.
Okay, I know Ko found the edge of the world, and if you logged back on his character, you would still be off the edge of the world. So,
Yeah, I didn't actually find the end of the map. I found some pretty desolate spots, but not the actual end of the map. Is time and world persistent? I think that time and the world is persistent. That's what they've been saying. But I don't know. I don't know what happens. Like, I know in EVE Online, they had a lot of problems with this because people would get into fights and like PvP battles, and in an attempt to save yourself and save your stuff, basically the person would log out, and the person that was fighting them and winning would basically lose out on that kill. And so they had to change their mechanics where there's, even if you log out, you're still technically there for 15 to 30 seconds or something like that.
It's that your ship goes into autopilot to get back to a nearby safe base, I believe.
In EVE, no.
No? I thought that's what happened when someone logs off, is that they automatically fly to some safe spot.
No. So after
I used to play
that
like a couple of
time-
years into it.
Oh no, you're safe. So it doesn't go into autopilot to go. It basically warps off eventually into an unknown safe spot. It basically warps off the map, out of existence is where it warps off. It doesn't actually autopilot to a station, because that would just be insane. That would be cool, but no, you can't autopilot in Eve and think you're safe. Even if you have nothing in your cargo and you're like in a noob ship, you might still get shot because people just like killing noobs. There is no safety in Eve. There's no such thing. It's a brutal, wonderful game. But so the thing with Eve is, so if you're in the middle of a fight now, it starts a timer. Like it activates every time someone shoots you or you shoot someone else, depending on what zone you're in. It starts a countdown timer, and that could be between 15 or 30 or something like that seconds. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. I think it's a long time. Where basically, if you log out or you disconnect, your ship is still there. Your character is still there. They could blow up their ship. They could blow up your character. So you have to replace all of your implants and all of your things. Basically, you lose everything. And they did that so that people wouldn't log out in an attempt to save themselves. But then it also leaves you with the problem where, what do you do if you have to go? Like, you've got an appointment. Your friend got into a car accident and you have to leave the computer. Like, who knows? Anything could happen. What do you do? What happens to your character? So I'm curious how H1Z1 is going to handle that. I'm actually very, very curious. There are ways to mitigate that happening in Eve, so I'm sure there will be ways to mitigate that happening in H1Z1 as well.
Or maybe like you log off and you're vulnerable for an hour, like your character is like asleep on the ground or something, or 30 minutes or however long, and then you disappear from the world. So there's some element of, you better make sure you're in sort of a safe place, but, you won't be there for a week if you don't log in.
So would a zombie fight pick up where you logged off for your player save? I don't know. So in Eve, if you're fighting NPCs, like if you're not fighting with an actual person, but you're fighting NPCs, there's still a timer because people would do that too. Basically, people try to weasel out of death in every way humanly possible, even though that's the nature of the game. And so I wonder how that will work in H1Z1. If you're in the middle of a zombie fight and you're super infected and it's clear that you're going to die and you log out, does your character just die? Or does your character instantly log out and then log back in? Will the zombie still be there, or will it have wandered off? Like, what if you come into a zone and there's a whole bunch of zombies there, or you've got a whole bunch of zombies chasing you, and you don't see a way out, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe if I log out and then my friends get to where I was, they can come and save me when I log back in. Because that's been a mechanic that we've used in Eve as well. Literally, if someone was running an NPC site somewhere in a wormhole or something, and other people were there but logged off, that person would log out, be very, very close to death. I've actually saved people this way before and been saved this way before, where you're so close to death, but if someone comes and gets you, kills the NPCs quickly enough, they can save you. So I wonder if that'll be a possibility. I don't know.
Well, I guess, easy answer to that is server rule set. And to explain what I mean is there will probably be different servers with different rules. There might be some with instant logout or like a 5 or a 10-second rule. I can definitely see maybe a 10-second rule plus or minus recent combat, that if you've been in battle in the past minute, something's attacked you or been like aggroed and close to you within a certain radius, or you've attacked somebody or something or fired a weapon in the past minute, that you're not able to log out safely, and if you just close the client Alt F4 or whatever, that your character is going to stand there for a minute before they disappear. But otherwise, that if you're not in combat, then it's only 10 seconds. I could see that being kind of like the early easy version of it, if they have it anything other than just instant log in and log out. But I could see it being something that there's different versions of it. I could see server rule sets where if you're not in a bed or a sleeping bag or something like that, then your character's just standing there and they can get killed, and they probably will. I figure if you're standing anywhere for like more than 15 minutes in H1Z1, you're probably going to die. So, plus or minus, but yeah. In many places you can be in the game where if you're just logged out for 5 minutes, I'm sure a wolf is going to come munch you on, or a zombie is going to come locate you, or someone trying to scavenge the house and be like, oh, hey, this jerk, axe to the head. So
I kind of hope that they avoid too many different server rule sets, because I think it will segregate people too much, and I want to avoid that if possible. Especially as, I mean, I know that we're a subset of a very small subset, really, of gamers and of people that are going to be playing this game. But for a streamer, you know, you want to be able to play with your entire community, and for some of us, you know, that means people from all over the place, people from the U.S., people from Europe, you know, my streamer friends like me and Uni, you know, Ara, whoever. We all want to be able to play together, and we don't want to be limited. Like for me, I am a first-person perspective type of person. It's so much easier and works better for me, and I much prefer it. But I don't want to be forced to either only play third person because that's what all of my friends are playing, and then I won't have as good of an experience, or force anyone else to play first person. You know, I want to have the option. Like, I really love how Firefall did that, where they allow you to do one or the other, and it's literally super easy to switch back. It's just one mouse click. So, you know, I kind of hope that they really, and this applies to many things other than just first person, third person. I think in general, I hope that they avoid too many. I know it's a way to sort of satisfy everyone, but ultimately I think that it doesn't actually satisfy anyone, because there's just too much, because people want to play together. You know, a game like this, that's multiplayer, they want to play together, they want to play with all sorts of people, and it's limiting when they have different server rule sets like that, I think. My opinion.
Yeah.
For
Well, also, if it's going to be a big world, you don't want to have people spread out over too many servers, like you were saying, because then, you know, if you can't find anybody, or if there's only like, you know, a couple, I guess, I don't know, I don't want to say only a couple hundred people, but depending on the size of the world, it would make it not nearly as fun.
2015.
Yes.
Right? No, thank you. No more running sims, please. If I want to run, I'll go outside and do it. You know?
Yeah, I think it's going to be targeting about 2,000 per server, just kind of leveraging off of what they've already got with PlanetSide 2, and then if more makes sense, they'll make room for more, they'll make the tech for more, and they'll do more. If less makes sense, then likewise. And if it makes sense to scale the amount, each player, you know, the number of players that can be on each server as the actual landmass increases for the game. I could also see them doing that, especially if the game continues to increase its numbers over a long period of time. Then yeah, they probably would need to do something to start making a lot more room for everybody. For me, I'm almost not necessarily the opposite about server rule sets, but I come from the perspective of kind of relying on their token system. If people are going to want a server that's distinctly different than all of the other server rule sets that exist out there, and everyone, you know, throws their tokens into it, the developers are going to put that server up. So it's going to put that server up and make it available. So on one hand, I think there should definitely be some default servers that should be a good, balanced, fair version of gameplay that, you know, we kind of work out and agree upon during early access. But at the same time, I also want there to be the option for distinctly dynamically different servers that are, you know, anywhere from super easy mode zombie frag fest, just absolute arcade status, to super horrible, like, you're gonna have nightmares about bunnies. Like, you know, it's the full spectrum. I'm sure people are gonna want to see it, and I'm sure over time a lot of those things are going to be teased out with the token system. But that's why the token system is so important, because they're only going to put up a server if enough people actually want to play on it. If people don't actually go out of their way to spend station cash, to buy tokens, to invest towards a server, that they'll get the tokens back when the server goes up, but you can't like put 20 tokens on 50 different servers at once. You would have to buy 1,000 tokens, which would probably be expensive. So there's probably going to be a limit to that sort of thing too. I don't know how many tokens everyone's actually going to be allowed to have at a maximum, just to prevent issues with exploitation. And we might not even get our tokens initially. It might be something you get after 10 hours of gameplay or something. So there aren't a bunch of alt accounts. Just people are just, you know, creating a bunch of accounts to kind of push a server into effect. So I definitely agree, though, that there should be consistency for the you know, the initial servers that we get and the stuff that they spin up for the mass player base. those should definitely be things that are consistent between one another, fun and fair, and even for everybody. So that'll be really really nice when we get to see how that stuff plays out. So we're getting really close to the end here. I want to make sure to give everybody time to do proper wrap ups. So is there any last final thing that either of you wanted to mention or bring up at all?
Just ready for it to be out. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah, super, super, super excited for it to come out. Basically, there's a lot of things that I'm sort of looking forward to and hoping that they include, but really we won't know much more about what will drop when early access drops until early access drops. It's just hard to really speculate too much because things are changing as we speak and may change further, and hopefully they come out with a product soon and it's as awesome as we all hope it is, and I think it will be, so we'll see.
Yeah, I am super 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 excited for it. It's going to be pretty awesome. So I wanted to ask before we wrap things up, are either of you going to be starting up a stream like immediately after the show here?
Nope. I'm done for today.
Okie dokie. So then, while I do the wrap up process, I'm gonna see if I can find some awesome person for us to raid. Unless either of you have somebody who you totally.
Coltrane TV is streaming. Actually, he's the newest member of the O team, so it would be really cool if we could raid him if that's at all possible. He's very different from the rest of us in that he streams sports related things, but he's got the biggest personality you'll ever meet. So it would be really cool to raid if it's at all possible.
Absolutely, I'm not gonna say no to a guest. If you want to type his URL there in the chat there, and I'll start wrapping things up. So of course, anybody who tuned in kind of late and didn't get to meet everybody here, I am Legendary Neurotoxin. On screen left is SuperFancyUnicorn, and on screen right is Tessachka. So Uni, once again, why don't you kind of go over what you're up to, where people can find you, what kind of games you play and such?
Well, I am SuperFancyUnicorn here on Twitch. I stream every day, or almost every day, except for Sundays, at 2 o'clock Central. For the month of October, I'll be focusing on scary games. So if you like horror games and or watching me freak out, would love to see y'all there. Otherwise, I do a variety of things. My favorite genres are MMOs and FPSs. So, big fan of all that stuff.
Awesome. Very cool. And I'm going to have you go through your stuff then, Tess. Why don't you let everyone know where to find you?
I'm so sorry. Coltrane doesn't actually start for half an hour, so we need a different person. But
we're going to send it to Needlecat. She was on last week. Cool. She's totally awesome.
Great.
Perfect.
She's already rolling. In fact, she's playing Shadows of Mordor. She's a Lord of the Rings aficionado. She's wearing armor right now. So
wow.
Definitely
nice.
Definitely a place to go after here. But Tess, please go ahead.
So my name is Tess, or Tessachka is my channel. I stream lots and lots of scary games. I wear a heart rate monitor. I have fun scare in chat scare commands so that you guys can make crazy sounds come out of my speakers and scare me even more whenever I'm playing a scary game, and they're actually active all the time. So even when I'm playing FPS, which is my other favorite genre, anything like Borderlands 2 or Call of Duty's, Black Ops 2, Zombies, anything like that. Whenever I play any game, you guys can scare me, and it's always a good time. I'm super interactive, so come and check it out whenever you want to. I stream every day except for Sundays, usually at 11 a.m. Eastern until 6 p.m. Eastern or later.
Awesome. Alright, everybody, I want to see all of you over on Noodlecat's channel here with a Dead Feature Raid. So that'll be it for the show here today, everybody. Thank you all very much for coming. Uni, awesome having you on. Tess, awesome having you on. It's great. Yay! That's awesome.
Thanks for having us, Neuro. This is a lot of fun.
For sure.
I love you all. Bye.
All right.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.